The derelict, the wandering star, drifted through the Cathera Nebula like a tired ghost, its hull reflecting the purple and gold clouds of ionized gas that stretched for millions of kilometers in every direction. Captain Marcus Thorne sat in the pilot's chair, his weathered hands moving across the console with the practiced ease of someone who'd spent more years in space than on solid ground. The gray streaking his dark hair matched the permanent furrow between his brows. "That's the third false signal this week," Helena Cross muttered from the engineering station behind him. At 26, she was young enough to still feel disappointment keenly. Her fingers flew across her tablet, analyzing the dissipating energy signature that had promised salvage and delivered nothing. "Fourth, if you count the probe we chased Tuesday," Marcus replied without turning around. His voice carried the gravelly texture of someone who'd breathed recycled air too long. Helena sighed and leaned back in her chair, pulling her dark hair from its tie and letting it fall around her shoulders. "We're burning fuel we can't afford to replace, Marcus. Maybe it's time to head back to Outpost Tyrell and take on some cargo runs. Cargo runs don't pay enough to keep this ship flying. Neither does chasing ghosts." Marcus finally turned to face her, and something in his expression made her stomach tighten. He had that look, the one that said he was about to make a decision she wouldn't like. "There's one more signal," he said quietly. Helena sat up straighter. "What? Where?" "The scanner's been clear for hours, because I haven't told the computer to look for it yet." He pulled up a data file on his screen, and Helena rose to examine it over his shoulder. The encrypted transmission header made her breath catch. "That's a Colonial Fleet signature," she whispered. "Marcus, those ships have been lost for 82 years. The New Dawn, 4th colony vessel, disappeared in this sector with 9,000 souls aboard." His jaw tightened. "I found the transmission 3 days ago. Been trying to convince myself it was a malfunction." 3 days? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd try to talk me out of investigating." He met her eyes, and she saw something there she rarely witnessed. Naked hope mixed with old grief. "Helena, if there's even a chance someone survived..." "No one survives 82 years on a dead ship. Then we'll find answers. Closure. We'll know what happened to them." Helena crossed her arms, studying the man who'd pulled her from a bad situation 2 years ago and given her a place aboard his aging salvage vessel. She owed him more than she could repay, but this felt different. This felt personal in a way that worried her. "What aren't you telling me?" she asked softly. Marcus's shoulders sagged slightly. "My grandmother was on the New Dawn. Engineering officer, 2nd shift. Amelia Thorne. I was 7 when the ship vanished. My mother never stopped looking at the stars, waiting." Understanding washed through Helena like cold water. "Oh, Marcus, I have to know," he said simply. "Even if it's just confirmation that they're gone. I need to stop wondering." Helena looked at the transmission data again. The signal was faint but persistent, a heartbeat in the darkness. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was a mistake, that ghost ships brought nothing but trouble, that the past should stay buried, but she'd been running from her own past for too long to deny someone else the right to confront theirs. "Fine," she said, returning to her station. "But we do this smart. Full scans before we dock. Any sign of instability or contamination, we leave immediately. Agreed?" "Agreed." Marcus's relief was palpable as he programmed the new coordinates into the navigation system. The wandering star hummed to life, its engines pushing them deeper into the nebula's heart. Helena watched the scanner as they approached, her unease growing with each passing kilometer. The signal grew stronger, and then, emerging from a bank of golden gas like something rising from a dream, they saw it. The New Dawn hung in space, its massive cylindrical hull still intact despite decades of drift. Scarring marked its surface, long gouges that could have been micrometeor damage or something worse. But the ship was whole, its running lights dark, its windows like blind eyes staring into the void. "She's beautiful," Marcus breathed. Helena felt a chill run down her spine. "She's wrong. Look at the hull temperature. It's 30 degrees higher than ambient. Something's generating heat inside. Could be residual reactor decay. For 82 years? Marcus, that's impossible." He was already moving, checking the docking calculations. "Then let's find out what's possible." As the wandering star maneuvered toward the larger ship's auxiliary airlock, Helena couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. The New Dawn looked preserved, almost maintained, and that was the most unsettling thing of all. Dead ships didn't keep themselves. Warm dead ships didn't send signals. After 8 decades of silence, and as she watched Marcus prepare the docking clamps with something approaching, joy on his weathered face, Helena realized that whatever they found inside that ship would change everything. She just hoped they'd survive the discovery. The survivor. The airlock hissed open with a sound that echoed through the empty corridors of the new dawn like a dying breath. Marcus stepped through first, his helmet light cutting through the darkness, revealing walls that should have been covered in 80 years of dust and neglect. Instead, they were clean, not pristine, but maintained in a way that made Helena's skin crawl. "This is wrong," she whispered through the comm, her own light sweeping across a junction corridor. Emergency lighting flickered weakly overhead, powered by something that refused to die. "Life support's active," Marcus reported, checking his wrist display. "Minimal but present. Oxygen levels are at 73%. Temperature is stable at 18 degrees. Someone's been keeping the systems running." Helena's hand drifted to the plasma cutter at her belt. Not a weapon, but it could serve as one if needed. They moved deeper into the ship, following the source of the heat signature Helena had detected. The new dawn was enormous, designed to carry thousands to a new world. Now it felt like a mausoleum, their footsteps the only sound besides the distant hum of barely functioning machinery. Marcus led them to the botanical bay, one of the ship's largest sections. The doors were sealed, but power still flowed to the control panel. He entered an override code from the ship's public records, and the doors groaned open. What lay beyond stole Helena's breath. The bay was alive. Hydroponic gardens stretched in terraced rows beneath grow lights that cast everything in soft purple and blue. Vegetables grew in organized plots. Fruit trees reached toward the artificial sky. Water trickled through irrigation channels with quiet purpose. "Someone's been living here," Marcus said, wonder in his voice. "Someone still is," Helena replied, pointing to fresh footprints in the soil of a nearby path. They followed the prints deeper into the garden, past carefully tended rows of tomatoes and beans beneath branches heavy with apples. The air smelled of earth and growing things, impossibly alive in the heart of a dead ship. Then Helena saw her. She sat beneath the largest tree, back against its trunk, silver skin catching the light like liquid mercury. She was humanoid in form, but unmistakably alien. Her features were sharp and elegant, her eyes large and entirely black, no whites visible. Her hair, if it could be called that, moved like water frozen mid-cascade, each strand appearing almost crystalline. She wore a makeshift garment stitched together from ship's fabric and plant fibers. When she saw them, she tried to stand but collapsed, clearly weakened. "Wait," Helena called out, rushing forward before Marcus could stop her. Professional instinct overrode caution. The woman was injured, malnourished despite the garden's abundance, up close. Helena could see the alien's skin wasn't just silver. It had an iridescent quality, shifting between silver and pale blue depending on the angle of light. Her breathing was shallow, and when she looked up at Helena, there was intelligence in those dark eyes, along with fear and desperate hope. "Please," the woman whispered in accented but clear English. "Please, don't leave me here." Marcus knelt beside them, his scanner already running. "How long have you been on this ship?" 3 years. Maybe 4. I lost count. Her voice was musical despite its weakness, each word carefully shaped. "I am Nyx. My ship destroyed. This place, refuge." Helena pulled out her medical kit, checking Nyx's vital signs as best she could without knowing her species' baseline. "You've been alone here for 3 years?" Nyx nodded, then winced at the movement. "I learned your language from the ship's computers. The library still functions. I read everything, your history, your stories, your songs. I wanted to understand the people who built this place." "Your ship was destroyed?" Marcus asked gently. "What happened?" Fear flashed across Nyx's face, and she grabbed Helena's wrist with surprising strength. Her touch was cool, smooth like polished stone. "They're hunting me." "The harvesters. They consume everything, memories, lives, entire worlds. They found my people. Her voice broke. "I'm all that escaped." Helena felt something shift in her chest at the raw pain in Nyx's voice. She'd spent 2 years keeping everyone at arm's length, afraid of connection after what had happened before Marcus found her. But looking into Nyx's alien eyes, seeing the loneliness that mirrored her own, something cracked in the walls she'd built. "You're safe now. Helena heard herself say, her hand covering Nix's. We're taking you with us. Helena, Marcus warned, but she shot him a look that brooked no argument. She's a survivor, Marcus. Like us. We don't leave survivors behind. Nix's eyes widened, and tears, actual tears, though they shimmered like mercury, tracked down her cheeks. You would do this for me? Yes, Helena said firmly, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. Marcus sighed but nodded. Can you walk? I think so. With Helena's help, Nix stood, leaning heavily against the younger woman. She was tall, nearly matching Marcus's height, and despite her weakness, there was a grace to her movements. As they made their way back through the garden, Nix looked around with obvious sadness. I will miss this place. It kept me alive, but it was also a prison. I was too afraid to leave, too afraid they would find me again. These harvesters, Marcus said as they reached the bay doors. How do we know they're not already here? You don't, Nix replied quietly. But they track by consuming ships' data cores, absorbing navigation logs and destination records. I destroyed the New Dawn's core 3 years ago. As long as you haven't sent any transmissions, Helena and Marcus exchanged glances. They'd been running silent, standard procedure for salvage operations. We're clear, Marcus confirmed. Let's get you to the Wandering Star and... An alarm shrieked through the ship's dead corridors, ancient klaxons awakening after decades of silence. Red emergency lights bathed everything in blood-colored illumination. Nix's face went pale, her silver skin turning almost white. No, they found me. They found us. She gripped Helena's arm tighter. We have to run. Now. If they board this ship, if they access any records that show where you came from, they'll know where Earth is, Marcus finished grimly. Helena felt ice flood her veins. She looked at Nix, at this woman who'd survived alone for years in a garden tomb, and made a decision. Then we make sure they don't get those records. Marcus, can you purge the New Dawn's backup systems? If I can reach the bridge, yes. Go. We'll get Nix to the ship. Helena met his eyes, seeing the protest forming. Trust me. Marcus hesitated for only a moment, then nodded and ran. Helena turned to Nix, whose dark eyes reflected the emergency lights like mirrors. Can you move faster? With you helping me, yes, they ran. The warning. The Wandering Star's medical bay was cramped but functional, and Helena worked quickly to stabilize Nix while the alien woman sat on the exam table, watching her with those fathomless dark eyes. The ship hummed around them, still docked to the New Dawn, while Marcus worked to purge the colonial vessel's data systems. Your hands are gentle, Nix observed, her voice stronger now that Helena had administered fluids and basics. Nutrients, carefully chosen based on the biological. Scans that showed Nix's physiology was remarkably compatible with human medicine. Helena felt heat rise in her cheeks. Unused to such direct observation, I'm not a doctor. Just picked up enough to keep a crew alive out here. You care deeply, even when you pretend not to. Nix tilted her head, studying Helena with an intensity that was both unsettling and oddly thrilling. I felt it when you found me. Your fear of connection, but also your desire for it. My people. We sense emotions like colors in the air. Yours are very bright. That must make it hard to keep secrets, Helena said, trying to keep her tone light as she checked Nix's blood pressure equivalent. It makes it hard to be alone with them. Nix's hand caught Helena's, stopping her movement. You've been hurt. Someone made you believe that caring was dangerous. Helena pulled away, busying herself with storing the medical equipment. We should focus on keeping you alive, not analyzing me. Why not both? There was something almost playful in Nix's tone now, a glimpse of who she'd been before years of isolation and loss. Before Helena could respond, Marcus's voice crackled over the comm. I've reached the bridge. Starting the purge now. But Helena, you need to see this. What is it? Just get up here, both of you, if Nix can manage it. They found Marcus standing before the New Dawn's main view screen, his face pale in the glow of scrolling data. Nix gasped when she saw what he'd discovered. Logs, dozens of them from the original crew. They didn't die, Marcus said quietly. The colony mission didn't fail. They ran. Helena scanned the entries, her heart sinking with each one. Captain's logs detailed an encounter 3 months into the journey, first contact with the harvesters. The creatures had demanded the ship's complete navigation database, all records of human space, in exchange for safe passage. The captain refused, Nix whispered, reading alongside them. He knew what giving them that information would mean. So they fled deeper into uncharted space, Marcus continued. Pushed the engines beyond safety limits. The last entry is from 82 years ago. They were heading for a planet in the Zephyr sector, hoping to hide there and rebuild. Did they make it? Helena asked, unknown. The logs end abruptly. Marcus pulled up another file. But there's something else. They weren't the only ship that ran. At least 6 other colony vessels encountered the harvesters and chose to flee rather than compromise Earth's location. Helena felt the weight of that revelation. Thousands of humans scattered across the galaxy living in hiding. Why didn't they send warnings back to Earth? Because any transmission could be intercepted, Nix explained. The harvesters would follow it back to the source. These people sacrificed everything, their homes, their families, contact with their entire species, to keep Earth safe. Marcus stared at the screen, and Helena saw the grief in his expression. His grandmother had made that choice, had lived the rest of her life in exile, protecting a world she'd never see again. Marcus, Helena said softly. I know. He straightened, wiping his eyes. I know, let's finish the purge and get out of here. But before he could initiate the final deletion sequence, Nix grabbed his arm. Wait, download the coordinates first. The locations where the other ships fled. Why? Because those people are still out there, still hiding. If you're going to fight the harvesters, you'll need allies. You'll need to bring the lost children of Earth home. Marcus looked at Helena, who nodded slowly. The download began, precious data flowing into the Wandering Star's encrypted storage. Coordinates to 6 lost colonies. 6 chances to reunite humanity's scattered fragments. The alarm changed pitch, a new urgency in its wail. They're here, Nix breathed, her skin going pale again. I can feel them. It's like pressure in your mind, pushing, searching. How long do we have? Helena asked. Minutes. They send drones first, small craft that scan for life signs and data cores. If we're still here when they arrive? Marcus slammed his hand on the purge command. Done, let's move. They ran through the New Dawn's corridors, the 3 of them, Helena supporting Nix when the alien woman stumbled. Behind them, they could hear something, a sound like metal being carved by claws, distant but approaching fast. They reached the airlock just as the first drone appeared at the end of the corridor. It was insectoid and wrong, built from organic and mechanical components fused into something nightmarish. Its sensors swept toward them with a sound like screaming. Get her inside! Marcus shouted, pulling his plasma cutter and firing at the drone. The beam struck it, and the creature shrieked but kept coming. Helena dragged Nix through the airlock, the alien woman's weight suddenly feeling like nothing as adrenaline surged through her system. Marcus backed through after them, firing continuously until the door sealed. Disengage docking clamps, he ordered, running for the cockpit. Helena strapped Nix into one of the passenger seats, their eyes meeting for a moment. There was fear there, yes, but also something else. Gratitude, trust, and something warmer that made Helena's breath catch. Thank you, Nix whispered, for not leaving me. Thank me when we're clear, Helena replied, but she squeezed Nix's hand before rushing to her engineering station. The Wandering Star shuddered as the docking clamps released. Through the view screen, they could see more drones emerging from the nebula, at least a dozen, their insectoid forms moving with terrible purpose. Hold on, Marcus growled, and the ship leaped forward into the swirling clouds of the Cathera Nebula. Behind them, the New Dawn finally died, its last act to delay the pursuers for a few precious seconds. Helena watched it disappear into the golden haze and thought of all the stories it held, all the lives it had carried and protected. Now those stories were theirs to finish. The chase. The Wandering Star shook violently as another plasma burst from a harvester drone grazed their aft shields. Marcus's hands danced across the controls, weaving through the dense plasma currents of the Cathera Nebula with desperate precision. Shields at 40%, Helena called out from engineering, her fingers flying across her console as she rerouted power from non-essential systems. We can't take many more hits like that. I'm open to suggestions, Marcus shot back, banking hard to avoid a pocket of ionized gas that would fry their systems. From her seat behind them, Nyx suddenly spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos with unexpected calm. There, 40 degrees starboard. The dark channel between the thermal vents? That channel's barely wide enough for this ship, Marcus protested. And the sensor data says it's a dead end. Your sensors rate gravity and mass. I feel them. Nyx unstrapped herself and moved to stand between their seats, one hand bracing against each chair. Despite her recent weakness, she radiated confidence now. My people navigate by sensing gravitational fields. That channel connects to a current that will take us deeper into the nebula, where the drones can't follow. Helena met Marcus's eyes, saw him weighing their options. Behind them, 3 drones were closing fast, their organic mechanical bodies somehow more terrifying because they moved with purpose, intelligence. Do it, Helena said. Trust her. Marcus cursed but swung the ship toward the narrow gap Nyx had indicated. The wandering star groaned as they squeezed between walls of superheated plasma, proximity alarms screaming warnings that they were already painfully aware of. There's something ahead, Helena reported, her voice tight. The channel is narrowing. No, Nyx corrected, leaning forward, her hand landing on Helena's shoulder. The touch sent an unexpected thrill through Helena despite the danger. It appears to narrow, but the gravity well opens. Trust what I feel, not what you see. It went against every instinct Helena had developed in years of space travel, but something about Nyx's certainty, her absolute conviction, made Helena believe. Marcus, kill the forward sensors. Follow her directions exactly. You're both insane, he muttered, but he did it. For 10 terrifying seconds, they flew blind, with only Nyx's quiet directions guiding them. Left, level, right, now straight. Her voice was like music in the darkness, calm and sure. Then they burst through into a region of space Helena had never seen before, a pocket within the nebula where the plasma clouds formed a spiraling cathedral of light, purple and gold and electric blue swirling in patterns that seemed almost intentional. The beauty of it made her gasp. Behind them, 2 of the drones had attempted to follow. The channel had collapsed on them, crushing their insectoid bodies in a wash of superheated gas. 1 left, Marcus reported, and it's not giving up. The remaining drone was faster than the others, adapting its flight pattern to match Marcus's maneuvers. It fired again, and this time the hit was solid. The wandering star lurched, lights flickering. Shields are gone, Helena announced, fighting to keep her voice steady. Next hit goes straight through. Nyx was still standing between them, her dark eyes fixed on the view screen. Helena could see her thinking, calculating. Then the alien woman turned to her, and Helena saw determination mixed with something softer in her expression. I can stop it, Nyx said, but I need to access your communication array. I can send a pulse on frequencies the harvesters use. It will confuse the drone long enough for you to destroy it. Do it, Marcus ordered. But Nyx was looking at Helena, and Helena realized she was asking permission for something else. It will reveal our position to any harvesters in range. They'll know I'm here, that I'm with you. Then we run faster, Helena said, reaching up to cover Nyx's hand where it still rested on her shoulder. We don't sacrifice you to save ourselves. Something flickered in Nyx's expression. Surprise, gratitude, and that warmth Helena had noticed before, now undeniable. Your emotions, Nyx whispered. They're like sunrise. I haven't felt anything so beautiful in years. Touching moment, Marcus interrupted, not unkindly. But that drone is lining up another shot. Nyx moved to the communication station, her long fingers adapting to the human interface with surprising ease. When I send the pulse, you'll have 3 seconds while it's disoriented. Make them count. Ready, Marcus confirmed, his hands poised over weapons control. Nyx initiated the pulse. The drone suddenly jerked in space, its movements becoming erratic, confused. Marcus fired, his plasma cutter striking true. The drone exploded in a flash of organic matter and twisted metal. For a moment, they simply breathed. The only sound the wandering star's laboring engines and their own hearts pounding. Then Helena was moving. Crossing to where Nyx stood at the communication station. The alien woman turned just as Helena reached her, and their eyes met. Up close, Helena could see subtle patterns in Nyx's silver skin, like constellations mapped in Mercury. Thank you, Helena said softly, for trusting us, for saving us. You saved me first, Nyx replied. In that garden I had survived, but I was not truly alive. You reminded me what it means to hope. Helena found herself leaning closer, drawn by something she couldn't name. Nyx's hand came up to cup her cheek, the touch cool and gentle, and Helena saw her own reflection in those dark eyes, saw herself as Nyx saw her, brave and bright and worthy of connection. Helena, Marcus said quietly from the pilot's seat. I'm picking up something on long-range sensors. A structure, artificial, hidden in the densest part of the nebula. Nyx straightened, though her hand lingered on Helena's face for another heartbeat. The sanctuary. I hoped it would still be there, but I wasn't certain. Your people built it? Before the harvesters came. It was meant to be a way station, a place for travelers to rest. After the attack, the survivors fled there to hide. Nyx's voice dropped. I don't know if anyone still lives. Let's find out, Marcus said, setting course for the structure. As they flew deeper into the nebula, Helena stood beside Nyx, their shoulders touching, neither pulling away. Outside, the plasma cloud swirled like dreams, and ahead, somewhere in the light and darkness, waited answers they hadn't known they were seeking. The sanctuary grew larger on their screens, a station carved into an asteroid, its design organic and flowing like water frozen in stone. Lights still glowed in some windows, faint but present. There are people there, Nyx breathed, her voice breaking with emotion. I'm not the last. I'm not alone. Helena took her hand, threading their fingers together, human and alien, warmth and coolness. You were never alone. Not after we found you, Nyx turned to her. And in her eyes, Helena saw everything they hadn't had time to say, gratitude and affection and the beginning of something neither had expected, but both desperately needed. The wandering star approached the sanctuary, carrying 3 souls who'd been lost in their own ways, now finding something unexpected in the darkness between stars, each other. The homecoming. The sanctuary was more beautiful than Helena had imagined. The Velans had carved their station into the asteroid's heart, creating chambers that seemed to grow organically from the stone. Bioluminescent panels cast everything in soft, shifting light that reminded Helena of moonlight on water. It felt alive in a way human stations never did, less like a structure and more like a living thing. 3 Velans waited at the docking bay, their crystalline forms reflecting the light in shades of silver, blue, and pale green. When Nyx emerged from the wandering star, they rushed forward with cries in a language that sounded like chiming bells. Nyx collapsed into their arms, all of them holding each other, crying those mercury tears. Helena stood back, watching, feeling Marcus beside her. She's home, the older man said quietly. Yeah, Helena replied, but the word felt hollow in her chest. One of the Velans, an older male with skin that shifted between silver and deep blue, approached them. I am Kale, he said in accented English, elder of what remains of our people. You brought Nyx back to us. We are forever in your debt. She saved herself, Marcus said. We just gave her a ride. Kale's large dark eyes studied them both with that same intense perception Nyx had. I sense grief in you, human. Loss that shaped you. And I sense walls crumbling. His gaze moved to Helena. Thanks to both my child and yours. Helena felt her cheeks heat. We're not yet, Kyle said gently. But you could be, if you allow it. Over the next hours, they learned the Velan's story. They'd once been a thriving species, explorers and scholars who'd mapped much of this region of space. Then the harvesters came, consuming world after world. The Velans fought, ran, hid. Now only these 3 elders and Nyx remained of a people who'd once numbered millions. We are the memory keepers, explained Irina, a female Velan with green-tinted skin. We preserve the knowledge of our people, hoping that someday, when the harvesters are gone, someone will remember we existed. You'll be remembered, Marcus promised. I'll make sure of it. That night, or what passed for night in the timeless sanctuary, Helena found herself walking through the station's garden level. The Velans grew plants from their homeworld here, strange flowers that glowed in the dark and released scents that made her think of rainfall and distant oceans. I knew I would find you here, Nyx's voice came from behind her. The alien woman approached slowly, her movements graceful now that she'd been properly fed and rested. She wore flowing garments in shades of blue that complemented her silver skin. It reminded me of your garden on the New Dawn, Helena said, the one where you survived. That was survival. This is living. Nyx came to stand beside her, close enough that Helena could feel the coolness radiating from her skin. There is a difference. They stood in silence for a moment, surrounded by alien beauty and the soft sound of water. You're staying here, Helena said finally. It wasn't a question. My people need me. We're so few now. Every voice matters. Every memory must be preserved. Nyx turned to face her. But I wish I could go with you. To see Earth, to help you find the lost colonies, to... She trailed off, her hand reaching out to brush Helena's cheek. To know you more fully. Helena felt tears prick her eyes. I'm not good at this. Connection, feeling things, letting people in. Last time I did, it ended badly. I lost someone I loved, and I swore I'd never put myself through that again. And yet you did, Nyx said softly. You opened yourself to me in that garden, when you had every reason to stay closed. You risked yourself to save me. You hold my hand as if it were the most natural thing in the world, despite our differences. Because with you, it is natural. Helena's voice cracked, and that terrifies me. Nyx stepped closer until they were nearly touching. May I show you something? It requires physical contact, but only if you consent. Helena nodded, not trusting her voice. Nyx placed her palm against Helena's chest, over her heart. The coolness of her touch sent shivers through Helena, but then something else began. A sensation like warmth flowing between them, a connection that went deeper than physical. Helena gasped. This is how my people share emotions, Nyx explained quietly. I'm showing you what I feel when I'm with you. No words, no misunderstanding. Just truth. What Helena felt nearly brought her to her knees. Affection, yes, and desire, but also wonder and joy and a sense of completion she'd never experienced. She felt how Nyx saw her. Brave and beautiful and worthy of love, all the things Helena had never believed about herself. I see you, Nyx whispered. All of you, and I treasure what I see. Helena's hands came up to frame Nyx's face, her fingers trembling against that cool, smooth skin. I don't want to lose this. Lose you. Then don't. Nyx leaned forward, her forehead resting against Helena's. Choose connection instead of safety. Choose possibility instead of protection. Helena closed the distance between them, pressing her lips to Nyx's. The kiss was soft, exploratory, bridging the space between two species, two souls who'd been lost and found each other. Nyx's lips were cool but soft, and she tasted like the flowers that surrounded them, sweet and strange and perfect. When they broke apart, both were trembling. Come with us, Helena breathed. Please, we'll find the colonies, bring everyone home, and then we'll figure out the rest together. My people need you to live, not just survive, Helena interrupted. They need you to find joy, to experience everything you've been preserving in those memories. What better way than exploring the galaxy with us? Nyx's expression was torn. I want to say yes, but I cannot abandon them. You won't have to. Marcus's voice made them both turn. He stood at the garden's entrance, Kyle beside him. We've been talking, the elders and I. They have something to offer us, and we have something to offer them. Kale moved forward, his ancient eyes kind. We know the coordinates to 11 other lost human colonies. Not just the 6 you recovered from the New Dawn, but 5 more we discovered in our own travels. The harvesters have been hunting humans for decades, and many of your people have been hiding, just as we have. If you're willing, Marcus continued. The Velans want to form an alliance. They provide intelligence, navigation through dangerous space, and technology we can barely imagine. We provide protection, ships, and a way to strike back at the harvesters. Strike back? Helena asked. We're tired of hiding, Irina said, joining them. We're tired of waiting to die. Better to fight even if we fall than to fade into forgotten darkness. Marcus looked at Helena, and she saw determination in his expression. I'm not running anymore. My grandmother and thousands like her sacrificed everything to protect Earth. It's time someone repaid that debt. Time to bring the lost children home and make the galaxy safe enough that no one else has to hide. Helena felt something shift in her chest, those walls she'd built finally crumbling completely. She looked at Nyx and saw hope blazing in those dark eyes. I can come with you, Nyx said, understanding dawning. To help coordinate the alliance, to navigate, to be with me, Helena finished. If you want that. I want it more than I can express with words. Nyx took both of Helena's hands in hers. But you must understand, this journey will be dangerous. The harvesters will hunt us. We may not survive. Then we die having lived, Helena said, surprised by her own certainty. Together. Marcus cleared his throat. Before we get too dramatic about dying, maybe we should focus on the living part. Kale, how soon can your people provide us with the navigation data? It's already being transferred to your ship, Kale replied with what might have been a smile. Along with upgrades to your sensors and shield systems. Consider it our first contribution to the Alliance. Over the following days, plans were made. The Wandering Star would become the first vessel in a new fleet, part human, part Velen, dedicated to finding the lost and fighting back against those who preyed on refugees and survivors. They would start with the closest colony, only 3 weeks' travel away, and from there build a network of resistance. On their last night at the sanctuary, Helena and Nick stood on an observation deck, watching the nebula's clouds swirl beyond the transparent aluminum. Nix's hand found Helena's, their fingers interlacing naturally now. Are you frightened? Nix asked. Terrified, Helena admitted, but also hopeful. For the first time in years, I'm looking forward instead of backward. Then we begin, Nix said simply. Behind them, Marcus was already preparing the ship. Ahead of them, somewhere in the darkness between stars, 9,000 descendants of the New Dawn's crew waited to be found. Beyond them, thousands more from other lost colonies, all hoping someone would remember they existed. Helena squeezed Nix's hand, feeling the cool smoothness of her skin, the steady pulse of her heartbeat where their wrists touched. They would remember. They would find them. They would bring them all home, and in the process, Helena realized she'd already found her home, not a place, but a person. Someone who'd been as lost as she was, who'd survived against impossible odds, who chose hope even when despair would have been easier. The Wandering Star launched from the sanctuary at dawn, if such a time existed in the timeless nebula. 3 souls aboard instead of 2, carrying coordinates to lost worlds and the weight of hope from 2 species, who'd been running too long. Marcus set their course for the first colony. Nix guided them through gravitational currents, only she could sense, and Helena, for the first time since she'd fled into space years ago, felt like she was heading towards something instead of away from it. The journey would be long. The danger would be real, but they would face it together, human and Velen, lost and found, building something new from the ashes of what had been destroyed. Somewhere ahead, in the vast darkness between stars, thousands of voices waited to be heard, and 3 travelers, bound by something stronger than fear, went to find them. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, filled with predators and darkness. But it was also filled with light, with gardens growing in impossible places, with connections that bridged the space between different worlds and different hearts. They would find the lost. They would remember the forgotten. And in doing so, they would become something neither humans nor Velens had been before, united, purposeful, and finally, truly home. The end.